Hello, my name's Dan Harris. I'm the founder and CEO of Neurodiversity in Business. And I'm so delighted today to be welcoming a friend, but also a real leader in the ND community, Charlotte Valeur. Charlotte is the global chair of the Institute of Neurodiversity. And that's an organisation I followed for a long time, and one that I really admire their purpose and their drive for the neurodivergent individuals out there globally. So we're getting together today to talk about our two organisations, Neurodiversity in Business and ION. And I guess, first of all, Charlotte, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much, Dan. It's great to be here with you, as always, and talk about our organisations that we are spending an enormous amount of time on. I've done for some years now.
Indeed. Great. Well, look, the first thing I'd ask is perhaps if you could spend a couple of minutes just explaining more about ION, how you set it up, what it looks like, what your vision is, and also, touch on your kind of global focus as well.
Thank you, Dan. So ION really came about when I was feeling that there isn't really any effort to bring us as neurodivergent people together. I was looking for many places to find groups to join as a late diagnosed neurodivergent person, as groups for teenagers, groups for people in their 20s, where my children fit in, and there was nothing. There was a lot of groups for parents of children, and can easily find together and make their groups. But the individuals it's all about, we seem to somehow just not have that happening. So that is the core focus of ION, is to create neurodiversity networks around the globe, like a whole mesh everywhere, ideally, so that you don't have people feeling lonely. Loneliness is a big thing in our community. There's somewhere to reach out. There's some different tools you can look at. We can help maybe with diagnostics in terms of with people we partner with. But the overriding is to try to create a community, a global community, where we learn from each other, we support each other, we celebrate each other, we ensure that we change the narrative that other people have written for us, because we have a voice. We were not given a voice, and we're still not given a voice that is big enough. So we want to make that voice come to the fore from, cradle to grave. The discrimination we experience is something we want to address. And with the many together, we become a powerful coalition. And I think that's important because that's how we get a voice.
Great. And, I've just seen such a great focus on the kind of the welfare and the well-being of the neurodivergent individuals. And I'd absolutely agree that that's kind of been missing historically, hasn't it? Yeah.
And a huge part, of course, is also access to work. That is a good kind, and that's why I found Neurodiversity in Business so fantastic, because it brings together, but you talked to us about that, but from what I see, it really brings together that executive buy-in that is so important for us to get a job that actually, that's where we build our dignity, right? When you have someone and you have no job, you have no access to work, it's very hard to keep your dignity in place, because you're not contributing and you're not getting challenged yourself and growing as we do in jobs when we're adults. So I'd love to hear more about your sort of drivers as well on Neurodiversity in Business, and what's the vision? Where do you want to go with it? I mean, in ION, we want to go global. We're setting up in 14 countries now. We're pushing hard. We've got entities in 3 countries. We're launching in the US next month. And we just have people popping up everywhere, liking to be part of that global grassroots movement, if you want.
Got it. Yeah. Well, thank you, Charlotte. It's rare on these podcasts do I become the interviewee, so we'll swap chairs for a second, and I'll answer your question, but very happy to. So you're right. Neurodiversity in Business is firmly focused on the corporate world. So appreciating that ION is focused on individuals and public policy and social, etc. We're focused on transforming the corporate world, and actually, I think the corporate world can be a leader here. So we can drag society along, and that's the vision. We also, like yourself, Charlotte, recognise that this is a multi-generational fight, which is why I've been so excited by our collaboration and our friendship, Charlotte, because we're so much more powerful together, working together. And there are lots of organisations. There are also, unfortunately, sometimes some competitive tensions and also some commercial interests. But what I think differentiates yours and my organisations is that we're just charities, aren't we? All we want to do is move society and the corporate world forward without any kind of commercial imperative. But to come back to your question, so neurodiversity in business is first of all a coalition. It's a collective. So we've brought the great and the good from across the ND ecosystem together on our advisory board, of which we're really delighted that you're on that advisory board, and others who are leaders, either charities, advocacy groups, and also importantly organisations who are driving change in other corporates, so the big ND consultancies, for example. And that was one of our early successes, because actually to get those people together in a room working towards the collective good, that just gives us so much energy to drive forward. And then the other two layers to jump on top of that would be the corporate layer, obviously. So we're a membership body. We have, I think, around 400 organizations, really big global names, as you know, the Googles, the Amazons, Sky. We've got some really exciting ones to announce next week, actually. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to enable them and empower them to drive change quicker, faster, but importantly, more sustainably for the neurodivergent employee. And I think where there's a great coalition around this as well is that we're fighting not just for the neurodivergent employee, our ultimate beneficiary, but the potential employee, those who have been disenfranchised going through education, those who don't even get to the door of recruitment. So that's the second layer. And then the third layer is our co-production board. And these are neurodivergent individuals who are pretty high profile out there in the ecosystem, who are keeping us honest to the mantra of nothing about us without us. And the final thing I'll say about NiB is that we are exclusively volunteers and pretty much exclusively neurodivergent volunteers. So we're doing this out of the passion that we want to see change for ourselves, for our children. And like I said earlier, Charlotte, I think the corporate world can lead here. And we've made great progress, but as you and I were talking about the other day, we're in this for the long haul, aren't we?
We really are. And the whole thing, I really feel that we should, as a community, be able to work together collaboratively on everything, and look at the end goal is the same, which is to make neurodivergent people prosper equal to other people. And I think it's just, if we can't figure out to work together, I think that's not a good show to the outside world as well. And this is increasingly important that we embrace that collaboration with the kind of people we are working with, I think. And also create a space, like a psychologically safe space, where everybody can come in and they can talk about their problems in small groups, in bigger groups. They can be part of advocating. We're bringing out, a little survey that you have collaborated with as well, around what are the important points that we should be collaborating on. And of course, there are certain points that we as neurodivergent people might push for, that maybe some corporates wouldn't want us to push for, but that's also rights in employment, and good corporates will be with us on that completely, and they are probably most of the ones that have already signed up and are part of it. And certainly the corporate members we have very much want to show themselves as neurodivergent, like positive employers who want to bring their employees in and support them the best they can. So everybody is aligned, and that's what's important to continue to just get across and see that we are all driving towards the same things. And that's what this little survey also do at ION. We wouldn't do anything just because I sit one night thinking, oh, I think we should advocate for this. We advocate for what our members tell us that the majority of them want us to advocate for. It's not something we think out ourselves. Everything will be leaned into our members and asking, what do you think? And the broader community as well, collaborating with NiB around asking some of these questions. What's one of the most important issue? What are the top 3 more important issues? Whatever it might be. Well, that's where we focus our interest. even if I think there's another one that's more important, but that's just my idea. What's important is what does the majority think we should be pushing for, and then we can get everybody mobilized. I would love to see every single member be a strong self-advocate, have somewhere in for their self-advocacy in the workplace, privately, in the government, everything. And then behind that, they also become advocates to the broader society, so that we can hopefully give them enough input that they can use to turn around and show themselves to the public and say, by the way, we also think we should push for this change that's beyond their self-advocacy, if you see what I mean.
Got it. Okay, that's really helpful. And Charlotte, based on the kind of series of meetings we've had over the last month, we've got some exciting news to announce today. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, we feel that it's important for us to work as partners, and we would like to officially work with NiB in a close partnership where we do a variety of things together. And maybe you want to touch on some of your thoughts in this as well. It's important to show that again, we as relatively new initiatives in this space are willing and open to complete collaboration in all kinds of ways for the better of neurodivergent people. Our children, as you say, our grandchildren, we know it's very genetic, certainly in my family. We have a lot of neurodiversity, and it's without any doubt that the future generations would have that too. If I can be part of paving the way for everyone's children to have an easier life than what I experienced, that would be good. That would be really good. And collaborating with NiB is a really key part for ION to do that. Maybe set up around the world to, help NiB set up in other countries where we are already, and vice versa. And that close collaboration, I think, could really bear fruit for all of us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's absolutely key. And our strategic alliance here is all about, actually, we're more powerful working together. And where we have overlaps, we will collaborate. And where you are leading in ION in certain kind of spheres across society, NiB should be amplifying your message and trying to get the corporate world involved, or the corporate world with input. So I'm really excited about this, and I think it sets a great message as well to our community, because let's be frank, our community is one where there are such a broad range of opinions, right? You and I are never going to satisfy everyone. No. We welcome constructive feedback and criticism, etc. But the reality is that we need to stay true to our vision and our mission, and do our best to kind of show as role models, as leaders in this space, that actually we're only going to get there across this 10, 20, 30-year horizon by working really strongly together. So I'm really delighted to be entering into this strategic alliance. And I think in the coming years, it will really, really show good dividends, won't it?
I think it will, and I think we are creating the foundation for strong institutions, two strong institutions here that can drive this narrative in the right direction, listening to what all of us want and sharing our experiences. That's absolutely key, and making sure that gets shared across the executive sort of functioning of all the businesses, because you're absolutely right. The businesses can make a significant difference to our adult life and how we flourish, and to effectively our mental and physical health throughout our life. So it's a very large part of our life, from about 18 to 70 or whatever it is. And we really want to make sure that we get the most out of those years, because that's where we can actually, as neurodivergent individuals, contribute significantly to society and to businesses if we are heard and not seen as being in one little box. But when we are heard and listened to, our different thinking really makes a difference.
Absolutely. And I think I need to answer your point about that international aspect as well, because you said about collaborating in the countries where ION is globally. We'd be delighted about that. I mean, we've been approached probably by about half a dozen different countries, set of activists, and my kind of discussions with those different countries have been, this needs to be locally driven, embedded in your culture. It needs to be not anything that's run centrally from within NiB, but as much as we can empower you and accelerate your progress, because we've set kind of 2 years, we've had 2 years setting NiB up. So if we're able to kind of give you all of our processes, documentation, collateral, systems, that's fantastic, because you know, you and I want to retire at some point, don't we, Charlotte? Put our feet up.
Sure that these institutions still exist after that.
Exactly.
Your plan. We want to not be continuing to be the face out. We want everyone else to do that. And the same with the countries that Ian is setting up in. It's very much the country lead will lead that whole country. The main thing is just protecting the brand and making sure that we're not doing things in the name of Ian that our members are not in agreement with. And there aren't that many things like that, but there are some that we're very firm on, conversion training, for example. So we want to just collaborate across the world, but it's very much each country run it in what's suitable for each country, because countries are on very different levels of development. But from NiB's point of view, many businesses are in all these different countries and have this knowledge transfer within the business. That just needs to drizzle further down within the country, I think. I mean, you know, the Global South, you know, the Latin, I mean, there's so many places, even in Europe, where there still isn't a full understanding of the principles of neurodiversity and what it's attempting to do, and the whole movement. And really, we need the businesses in as well as the grassroots, and then combining the two should be a win-win.
Agreed.
Excellent.
And Charlotte, final question for me. We've got our first annual conference for NiB on the 16th of March of next year. It will be in London. Again, we'll be bringing the corporate world and the great and the good from across the ecosystem. We'd love to have you there as a keynote speaker if you can make yourself free.
Absolutely. Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. Lovely.
Thank you. It's great that we have found a common platform to work together from and collaborate with all of this, because that's really important. So the future is brighter.
Absolutely. Well, on behalf of NIB's membership, Charlotte, just wanted to say thank you so much for sparing us the time, but also for believing in neurodiversity businesses' mission and goals, but also showing that very collaborative and honest and open approach in our interaction. So we look forward to this alliance, Charlotte, and we'll say goodbye to our corporate members and individual members, and we'll have you again on in a few months, and we'll talk about what we've been doing.
Sure. And vice versa. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Charlotte. Bye-bye.